focus on the Knicks who were miserable.
I told you they were going to win.
Awful. Listen, it's not even about dissecting the game last night. All you had to do was watch the game and realize the Knicks had no interest in actually playing basketball. You know, you think about this, Teague, and Brian Cashman. All right, Brian Cashman has felt the wrath, certainly from us since we came here at the Fan back in January, from many before that. All right, and on most levels, I mean, sometimes people get nuts, but on most levels, fully justified from a baseball point of view. I would like to know why Leon Rose continues to skate. Mm-hmm. Why is Leon Rose not feeling the heat?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. One, I think the simple reason is because he hasn't been there that long. It's only been, this is his third full season because he came at the end of 1920. So this is
2020.
2020, you know what I mean?
Although it feels like they haven't won a championship since 1920.
Freudian.
Yes.
That's a Freudian slip there, Deke. But 2020 gave it the end of the 2020 season, which was the 1920 season. So when you pull it forward, it's three. He's going into his third full season. And so it's what could he have actually done with a bad roster that he had to turn over in such a short period of time? So I think he gets a pass because of that. I think he also gets a little bit of a pass because of the state of the Knicks and where they perceptually have been for the last, I don't know, decade or so.
More than that.
Yeah, even more. But so that's even furthers my point. Mm-hmm. If the free agents aren't going to come, and so Leon Rose has really got to work. And so I think because it hasn't been, say, a decade plus, like with Cashman, that he's escaping it because there isn't a long track record of futility or mediocrity, even though it feels like that's what
under his watch, you mean?
Under his watch. Under his watch, it hasn't been 2 decades of nothing. It's been 3 years of trying to get it right, even though some of those decisions you could heavily question.
Yeah, you can. I think that, excuse me, T, when you look at how the, the Knicks have, under his watch, they found a way to leave the gate. They found a way to get to the tarmac. They're not up in the air yet. And I just want to remind everybody. So I went back and I looked at, and Tiki's right, he took over March 2nd, 2020 was when he was introduced with the Knicks, right? So the game before, they played a game that night, but I went to the game before that. It was February 28th, I think. Now you had Randall, you had Barrett's first year, and you had Mitchell Robinson on the roster. Everybody else on the roster, Elfrid Payton, Mo Harkless, Taj Gibson, Bo Portis, Kevin Knox, Frank Ntilikina, Wayne Ellington, Damian Dotson, Trier, if you remember him, if you're a big Knicks fan, and you will. That was the roster he inherited, which was nothing. Okay. But he flipped the entire roster, including the coaching staff, and the only 3 players that he inherited, Randall, Barrett, and Robinson, you could make the very strong case that he foolishly extended. You can make that case. So, I listen, there's levels of culpability. There's degrees of anger. I get it. I'm not saying that needle's all the way pointing in the wrong direction. I'm not saying that the entire team is up in flames. What I am saying is this team's going nowhere. This team's going nowhere. And Leon Rose has not really even remotely shown the ability to, one, bring a big star here, which is what we all thought would happen because he was the most connected agent in basketball, number one. And number two, I do respect his track record, but let's just call it for what it is. They have the wrong coach. The Knicks have the wrong coach.
Well, that's a completely separate issue.
Roster.
That's a completely separate issue, which you have to get to. But
it's not, though, because Leon Rose hired him.
I know.
So it's not a totally separate issue.
But the question is, which one comes? What do you do first? Do you get
you can't get rid of 15 guys.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so what do you do first? Do you turn it over the roster, which it feels like he's trying to do a little bit, or do you get rid of the coach and then bring in someone new, which you should have done before the season if you were going to do it at all? So it's not going to happen, I don't think, in season. You'd have to wait and do it later, but now you're stuck with another mired season. But in reality, aren't they still trying to find themselves? I would argue that this 2022 Knicks team is still trying to find what they are. Now, whether or not you trust Thibodeau, however you say his name, to be that guy to get it right is another question. Let's save that one for right now. But this is a team is trying to find itself. R.J. Barrett, who's had a rough start, but if he gets back to where he was at the middle to end of last year, aren't you feeling good about him? Jalen Brunson's a really good point guard. Not a superstar, but he's a really good point guard. Julius Randle has actually started playing ridiculously well, better than he was last year, and not at the the ire tip of every fan's tongue.
But he doesn't impact winning.
I think that's because they need to figure out how to win. And obviously it's offensively. You can't shoot woefully from three like they did yesterday and expect to win and keep trying to.
Yeah,
Derrick Rose comes in, he's just jacking up 3-pointers with no chance to knock any of them down. It didn't feel like, and figure out what your rotation is going to be. Now, I think that this Knicks team has potential. I mean, they're 5-6. It's not like they're 2-9.
They're going nowhere, dude.
But you know what I mean.
They're going nowhere.
They're 5-6 right now. Shouldn't you have time to figure themselves? Shouldn't they have time to figure themselves out?
Sure, but really, yes. The answer, of course, is yes. Yes, that goes without saying. But there's I don't know how you look at this team and say it's going to get markedly better. What is the position? What is first of all, what is their identity?
Well, you got to assume they're going to make a trade.
No, I don't assume that, though, because Leon, that's my point.
But why else hold on to all of those?
I have
picks?
no idea. You can't take them to the grave. I know that. It's why you better earmark the money that you have. It's got to go to somebody. These draft picks have to go to somebody.
Yeah.
All right. And, I understand and I understood past tense and even, now understand why a lot of people, including me to an extent, really wanted Barrett to work out because we know the statistic. Charlie Ward was the last Knick first-round pick before Barrett to get a second contract. And that alone right there tells you and leads you to the origin of futility. If you can't draft well, you ain't going to win. All right, so we all know that. So I think that the hope that we had for Barrett kind of obscured some of the realities of R.J. Barrett. And I'm going to say again, because we really haven't talked a whole lot of Knicks this year, obviously, Jets, Giants, Yankees, Mets, but, now the Knicks are going to be a little more center stage here. You watch R.J. Barrett play. He's a slightly, and this might be kind, slightly above average athlete. He's not quick twitch. He's just not. He doesn't finish reliably. Just watch him play, doesn't do it. He's not a reliable free throw shooter. He's a streaky three-point shooter. Yeah, I know he plays D. I know he's a good guy. He's like a good team guy. R.J. Barrett's not going to be a star. He's never going to be a star. Julius Randle, whatever. I mean, you know what he does well. You know what he doesn't. Puts his head down, barrels into people. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes he starts a game. He bangs in a bunch of threes to start, like Minnesota. And last night, to be fair. And then some nights he's 1 for 6 with 4 turnovers and completely invisible. The team's going nowhere.
Yeah, is there a star? Is there a star on this team?
No.
Is there? So let me ask you a very simple
question.
I
really do like Brunson. I do. I really like Brunson.
Me too. But let me ask you.
And Toppin's improving. Go ahead.
Let me ask you a very simple question.
Yes.
Coming into this, before they played game 1, what did you expect this Knicks team to be? Did you expect them to be a top 4 team in the East? A top 8 team in the East?
Possibly.
Top 8. Team that was literally middle of the road.
7, 8-ish.
7, 8-ish.
Maybe 9.
So middle of the road.
Yeah.
Well, you gave that stat yesterday, BT, and it was so alarming.
Oh yeah,
the symmetry with this team. They're 5-5 at this point. This is before last night. They're 5-5. Teams over 500, 0-5. Teams below 500, 5-0.
Their point differential was 0.0 going into last night's game.
0.0.
They played 2 overtime games. They were 1-1. They played 5 home games. They played 5 road games. Right. Basically, a video simulation.
It's a wash. Right? Yeah. Directly assist their middle of the road blocks. Literally 15th in the East. 15th and 15th. They are dead average. And I think because some people wanted to overinflate them. When you see how they played against Brooklyn, who is a good team despite their record, you see how they played against Brooklyn, you get upset about it. But the reality is, this is just who they are.
Okay, which is why I started the show with Leon Rose.
Yes, but what could he have done in the time that he has been allotted?
Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, I mean,
could have done that.
That was a miss.
Well, but that was a huge miss.
That was a miss.
Huge.
That was a miss.
Colossal. almost unforgivable miss.
Should we? I mean, why don't we have faith that he's going to do something? With what he has.
I don't have faith.
I mean, there had to be a reason that Donovan Mitchell didn't make sense for him to pull the trigger. And if it was R.J. Barrett, then especially how R.J. Barrett's playing now, then we're really going to be upset about it.
No, they were okay with R.J. on that. That's why they quickly tried to pivot and smooth over any wounded emotions by giving him the extension, which, by the way, is not max. And that tells you a lot. Your third overall pick, you signed for less than the max. That kind of tells you a little about Barrett.
You haven't lived up to the potential.
No. I mean, listen.
Or the draft spot.
Leon Rose, here's what I believe. I think that Leon Rose was very aware of not getting played by Danny Ainge, okay? Power agent, super agent, well-connected, and I get it. That's a source of pride and being able to do business. So he didn't want to be on the wrong end of a deal where he gave up all of his unprotected assets and good players as well. Now, I also think that there was a thought maybe two small guys in the backcourt, which I think is ridiculous, with Brunson and Mitchell, who's obviously small, the 6'1", 6'2". They missed it. So, I know this is not like a Judge situation or a DeGrom situation or a Zach Wilson situation or a Daniel Jones situation. Not baseball. It's not football. But the Knicks, and they will always be treated this way on this show, the Knicks matter. And when the Knicks aren't good, then we want to know why. When the Knicks are good, we enjoy the ride. And I'm not saying that the Nets don't matter. I'm not implying that. But this is Knicks town. This is New York City, and this is the Knicks. And it's always been about the Knicks, and it always will. They got to start doing some stuff a whole lot better. I mean, there's an expiration point on that's why I ripped down the roster. Like, when again, Leon Rose was brought here, it was pretty dire. Mo Harkless, Bo Portis, Kevin Knox, Neil Akita, Ellington, Dotson, Trier. I mean, the team was going nowhere. You need to hear this again. The three players he inherited, Randall, Barrett, Mitchell Robinson. Ask yourself this question. How many smart organizations would have extended them the way the Knicks did? Mm-hmm. It's a short list.
Very.
And that tells you a lot about what Leon Rose has done so far, which is not much.
But it's also...
And by the way, he never speaks.
But it's also all that he could
Unless
do.
it's on MSG and he's protected.
But it's all he could do because free agents
that's
are
not
coming
right.
in.
It's not all he could do. What do you mean it's all he could do? You could have traded for Donovan Mitchell.
Okay, but
he's right in front of you.
And get fleeced? I mean, we don't know what Danny Ainge was asking for.
I don't think that you could get fleeced when you wind up with Donovan Mitchell. I mean... I understand, yes, in 3 years or 5 years or 30,000 years, one of those unprotected picks could become who's an embryo right now, who is the next LeBron James. I got it. You know what? I'll take the chance because there's guys who you hope become all-stars like Barrett who won't, and then there's guys who are all-stars like Mitchell who you passed on. That's on Leon Rose. That's it. It's on Leon Rose. He hasn't done a good job.
It's only been 3 years.
Well, how many years you want to give him?
I don't know, but more than 3.
Okay,
because
give me a number.
It takes
At
time.
What point does your level of tolerance expire?
BT, it takes time to turn over a roster.
I understand
get it in the image that you want it in. Now, again, can Julius Randle be an important piece of a winning team? Absolutely.
No, I don't agree with that anymore.
He can't be the guy.
Well, but he's a chucker.
Okay, but he can't be the guy. And if he's coached the right way or sat down, I think he can be a piece.
Too late for that.
I think Julius Randle's a decent player.
I do too, but it's too late to change who he is. You cannot. Even Thibs, who is supposed to be an authoritarian, there was a point where you could have maybe coerced the remnant of selfishness and bold. And I'm not saying he's not trying.
Yeah.
But Julius Randle, he is who he is. Let's not fool anybody. He ain't changing.
But it's not all bad. That's my point.
No, I agree with that. It's not all bad, but it's not good enough.
But it just takes time because you're not getting the free agent just flying into town and saying, I want to be a part of this. And New York is not that anymore.
I understand that.
Whether that's New York the city or New York the taxes
100%.
or New York the
organization.
I agree
with
or
that.
New York the fan.
Which is why you got to make a trade. And they never make them.
Yet.
All right, well, hopefully by the end of the show, you come up with a name that might be available that's going to change their fortunes because there was one. Now he's playing in Cleveland.
There's a couple.
All right. Okay. Look at Teak with the T's. Nice. 877-337-6666. So, I mean, and how the hell are you not even ready to compete? That's the other aspect of this. They weren't even ready to try. The Nets just served them and punked them from the opening to no effort. After a good win in Minnesota, I'm saying, all right, Brooklyn, the Knicks, here we go, 50, 60% Knicks fans. They didn't even show up. They didn't even get off the layup line. I mean, that was reprehensible. It really was. All right, we're inside of our Town Fair Tire studio. Our friends at Town Fair remind you that you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. So if I'm missing with something with Leon Rose, I am in the business of being fair, but also being brutally honest. I will always give you that.